At this time, I'll ask the town manager, Adam Mitchell, to review the meeting protocol for public participation as it relates to this virtual meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, and good evening, board members. All attendees that have joined the meeting tonight have joined muted. There is not a public hearing this evening, so the only time to address the town board is during the public comment section at the beginning of the meeting here shortly. If the public wishes to address the board during the public comment section, they will need to notify the town host that they wish to speak. For the public's benefit, if you are joining the meeting online and wish to speak, please press the Raise Hand button in the Zoom app. If you're joining the meeting via telephone, please press *9 to raise your hand. After you've raised your hand, you will enter into a queue. When the public comment period begins, Mayor Byrne will ask the town host to recognize you to speak by calling out your name or last 4 digits of your telephone number. You will be unmuted at that time and allowed to speak. We ask anyone from the public who's addressing the town board to begin your comments by stating your name and address for the public record. The public is asked to keep all comments to 3 minutes so that all can be heard in a timely manner. Once you have finished addressing the town board, you will then be muted again for the remainder of the meeting. And that concludes the meeting protocol, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Okay, I'd like to move to 3A, approval of the minutes for the June 1st, 2020 regular town board meeting.
Mayor, make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We go to 5A. And the IT director will call on individuals that have virtually raised their hand by way of the Zoom app or by telephone. Those wishing to address the town board will be unmuted one at a time. As a reminder, public comment is for those wishing to speak on matters that are not the subject of a public hearing. Those speaking are asked to begin by stating your name and address for the public record. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes in order that all who wish to speak may be heard in a timely manner. Scott, do we have anybody?
Yes, sir. We got 2 hands raised right now. First up is Ty Ziegler. Please unmute your mic.
Ty?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Ty Ziegler. I live at 847 Red Oak Tree Drive. My name is Ty Ziegler, and on behalf of a group of community leaders here in Fuquay-Varina, we cordially invite each of you to attend our first annual Fuquay-Varina United Walk on Saturday, June 27th at 8:30 a.m. This walk will begin at South Park and end at Falcon Park. In light of the recent murder of George Floyd and many others that have lost their lives due to unfair treatment by police, we believe that now is the time to bring unity within our community. We are grateful for our outstanding police chief and her officers that worked tirelessly to build bridges and trust within our community. We believe that it is important that we unite as a community in order to tackle the issues of race relations within Fuquay-Varina. I myself have experienced my own issues with race right here in Fuquay-Varina, from being called the N-word while having ice cream with friends to being questioned by individuals for not fitting in at local events, all because of the color of my skin. We believe that working together with community leaders, churches, organizations, and business leaders, We can grow together, promote unity and diversity within our town. We believe uniting is the first step in the right direction. We have held numerous barbershop rap sessions to confront and discuss many topics about race. We know that that is not enough, but it has been a start. Many relationships have developed from those rap sessions. Thank you, Mayor Byrne, Commissioner Harris, and Commissioner Marilyn Gardner for your attendance at these events. We are now asking that you join us on June 27th and walk with us and help unite our community. We can no longer ignore the issues that continue to impact many residents in our town. Unity is what we need. Our community is what we believe in. And we hope you will come together with us that we may be the change the world needs to see. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ty. And I'm sure we will all make a real effort to participate. And thank you for sharing this event with all of us and working closely with our police chief. Okay, Scott.
Yes, sir. We have one more hand raised, showing up as Kanika. Please unmute your mic.
Kanika?
Hi, yes, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Kanika Brown. I live at 1001 South Philwood Court in Fuquay-Varina. So I recently heard that the Fuquay-Varina Police Department have implemented the 8 Can't Wait pledge, and I would love to hear on how the town and the police department plan on communicating their effort with this pledge to the community so that we are at ease knowing that our police force are able to de-escalate situations before fatalities occur.
I think that our police department has implemented this plan long ago, and there are probably some areas of it that they're working to fine tune. It is the type of plan that needs, very good implementation. And our police department wants to do the very best job that they can do, and I'm sure they will do a good job at it. Adam, do you want to comment more on that, or?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I would just encourage the caller to stay tuned during this meeting, later on during the meeting,
That's right.
Not far from now, given the agenda that we have. Both myself and, more importantly, Chief Fonstock will be making a presentation to the town board this evening, as well as to any public who is watching this live or may tune in at a later time to watch this meeting on both policies, community outreach, recruitment efforts that we have within our department, sort of a wide span of subject matter, but it will also get to the question of the caller, which is how do we intend to communicate and share this information with the public. So that'll be discussed at a later point in the agenda this evening.
One of the things that I would comment on, several years ago, we hired Chief Fonstock, and this was one of our town's missions at that time. And she has done a wonderful job really bringing this to the forefront here in Fuquay-Varina in a lot of different ways. And you'll get to hear some of those tonight in her presentation. It's not going to be a back and forth presentation, but you'll get to hear it. And we're just very excited to be able to provide this information back into the to the community. I think she's done it in a lot of different ways. Through the academy that she does, through the chamber's leadership, If you participate in any of those types of events, the barbershop, rap sessions, coffee with a cop, you'll see the uniqueness and the love and care that goes back into our community. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, may I make a comment?
Anything?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to
Yes,
make,
sir. Excuse
I'd like to respond to the caller and just make a comment. I think that the caller may be referencing specific policies outlined in the 8 can't wait recommendations, and notwithstanding the fact that Chief Fonstar has done an outstanding job when it comes to community policing, but the 8 can't wait are in-depth policies that will last probably past the time of our being on this board and Chief Fonstar's time here. I think it's important that the community be clear about the specific policies that are identified in the 8 can't wait recommendations. Certainly there are policies already in place that might address those concerns, but in that program, it specifically outlines detailed recommendations, and the encouragement is that the city accepts those policies as operating procedures and guidelines for the police department. So I would hope that as the presentation takes place, that those specific guidelines or policies will be identified, not necessarily in a general statement, but certainly in a clear manner where it can be sure that the expectations outlined in the program are addressed.
They will.
Okay.
And I think in my mind, this is a direction that we've been moving in for 4 or 5 years now. And I am excited, about it. As I went to Wake County Mayors Association last night, and about half the towns are in Wake County are appointing advisory boards. Mayor appoints advisory boards. And I don't think we're really to that point here in Fuquay-Varina. We have to do a good job, and we're going to do a good job for our community and for our police department, as well. But thank you very much for calling in. Any other thoughts you had? The girl that was on the phone. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Anybody else, Scott?
No, sir.
Okay. We move then to 7A. We don't have any public hearings. Okay. So we move to 8A, or 8 as a whole. And what is the board's pleasure on the items on the consent agenda?
I thought they were doing presentations. We're not doing a presentation first?
That's going to come during the manager's report.
Okay. Mayor, make a motion to approve consent agenda items A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I got a question about H. Do you want me to remove it or ask a question?
Okay, so we're going to leave off H.
Well, I might could ask a question and leave it all together.
Oh, go ahead with me. Ask away if you want.
All right. This is transfer, and I understand what this is doing. Anything that's bought will still be obviously discussed and have to be approved.
Yes, sir.
At that point, and it's simply 4 to 5 year plan. And I'm assuming this is an item that I have expressed not necessarily being in favor with in the past, and at that point would be the time that I can further talk about that item. I'm making a statement as a question. Further point, talk about that time, because this money also could be used for something different with downtown development and mixed use type items. Correct?
It could be. This is codifying an action that the board took with the FY20 budget in 5-year plan. But any expense of these funds would have to come back before this town board for approval.
For instance, at that point, then appraisals or anything else within property could be discussed at that time.
Exactly.
Okay, all right. I'm okay with money being in a budget because I look at it as nothing but a placeholder, but does not necessarily mean that I'm in favor of purchasing that item. So at this time, I will seek to approve all consent agenda items A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Do we have any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. We move to 9A. We didn't have any for 9A. And we now move to 10A. Contract award budget amendment and project ordinance amendment, Twin Lakes Town Park, 42,000 BA 2026. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Town Manager Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this agenda item is to consider award of the Willow Lakes Park Irrigation Sod Project to No Drought Irrigation Lighting and Landscaping Company, approval of a budget amendment, BA 20-26, and a project ordinance amendment. The Willow Lakes Town Park Master Plan includes 2 multi-purpose fields, a comfort station or restroom, future community center site, or a similar recreational facility, as well as future parking on town park property. In an effort to promote efficient site design, responsible use of tax dollars, and facilitate better construction project management, the town entered into a joint master planning and design with the school project team and agreed to include the initial site development of Willow Lakes Town Park in the bid package for the South Lakes Elementary School. Under the terms of the interlocal agreement, the town is responsible for the cost attributable to the town's park program. The bid package for South Lakes Elementary School also included a number of bid alternatives for optional town park components to include field irrigation, an additional parking lot on town property, and a permanent restroom facility. At the time of the bid opening in January of 2019, it was clear that the bid alternate pricing was not favorable to the town and could not be supported by the project budget, and therefore all alternatives were rejected at that time. The town and the Wake County Public School System facility design and construction staff have worked collaboratively since January of 2019 to arrive at a cost allocation for town site development costs that are fair and reasonable to all parties. The agreed upon cost of $388,804 includes the town's proportionate share based on stormwater calculations of stormwater infrastructure, including storm drainage and a shared stormwater pond that is sized to support full development of the site per the master plan, grading, seeding, sediment and erosion control, and site utilities, which will accommodate a future comfort station and restroom. With $168,768 remaining in the project budget, town staff solicited informal bids for installation of irrigation and sod to provide better play and durability of the 2 fields. The town received a total of 4 bids for the irrigation and sod installation, the lowest bidder being No Drought Irrigation, Lighting, and Landscaping at $200,000. I, along with staff, are recommending approval of a budget amendment and project ordinance amendment in the amount of $42,000, utilizing a surplus of recreation unit fees to bridge the shortfall between the budget and the actual cost of the project. The budget amendment includes a 5% contingency. The budget amendment, again, in the amount of $42,000 is needed to award the project. Town staff has identified a surplus of revenue in recreation unit fees in the current fiscal year, and I'm recommending appropriating this overage to support the cost of the installation of the sod and irrigation at the Willow Lakes Park, much like we did at Fleming Loop Park. Currently, the town of Fuquay-Varina has received $1,747,750 in the current fiscal year 20, in recreation unit fees through June 10th of this year. This is 187% higher than budgeted projections for the entire fiscal year. That is why I feel confident in making this recommendation to the town board this evening. The recommendation that I'm making is by motion for the town board to approve budget amendment BA 20-26 and project ordinance amendment for the Willow Lakes Town Park irrigation and sod installation in the amount of $42,000 as presented and recommended. and also authorizing me as your town manager to execute a contract with No Drought Irrigation, Lighting, and Landscaping in the amount of $200,000, subject to the town attorney's review as to form. I'm happy to answer any questions that the town board might have.
I think you got a good plan.
Yes, sir. I think long-term, this is going to yield us a better product for these playfields.
Absolutely.
Manager, I didn't see a site plan here, and that's fine. I'm trying to go off memory of the park, and I'm fine with what we're doing here. Just what question did strike my fancy is trying to remember why we named it Willow Lakes Park and not just South Lakes Park, since that elementary school,
Yeah, I think, it was to not provide confusion to.
the neighborhood.
That's right, and that's exactly
Kind
right.
of like we did not name the Hilltop Nemo Park and Preserve Crooked Creek Park.
Exactly.
Same kind of logic. That's what I
Same
was thinking.
concept.
Mayor, make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we move on to 11A, Manager's Report.
Okay, a few items, Mr. Mayor, just to report to the board that are outside of the agenda itself. First of all, as it relates to COVID-19, we continue to closely monitor new cases, testing, and hospitalizations and related trends at the local and state level. While an increase in new cases is to be expected, as testing has increased over the last month, the percentage of positive cases has ticked up, meaning the number of new cases is increasing faster than the increase in testing. That's not a good trend. More concerning, the number hospitalized has increased at the state level. Local data is not available for this particular statistic, but we know that there are 829 people currently hospitalized with COVID-19. As of today, 74% of hospital beds and 74% of ICU beds are in use in the state of North Carolina. 28% of ventilators are currently in use in the state of North Carolina. As it relates locally, you probably saw on the news over the weekend about positive cases having occurred at Windsor Point. What we know at this moment is 3 residents of Windsor Point continuing care tested positive for COVID-19 over the weekend. No additional positive tests have yet been reported as of 4 p.m. today, per the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services COVID-19 ongoing outbreaks in congregate living settings report, with reportings having been on last Tuesday and on Friday. That's when they report on Tuesdays and Fridays. So we're waiting to see what that report shows following this past weekend. Per Wake County, there have been 3,182 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Wake County, of which 48 have been in Fuquay-Varina. So our numbers are still very low from a community perspective. However, we are keeping a close eye on what impacts the positive cases at Windsor Point may have on our community numbers.
Manager,
But
that's still
that 48 continues to rise.
It does.
everywhere's right, but is Fuquay-Varina still in first place for least amount of cases?
I have to
Just
get
barely got-
confirmation on that. I know we're one of the 3 lowest.
As
ones.
of Friday of last week, we were.
Yeah.
So that's good. Just commending on.
Yeah, we are very low in comparison to our peers.
Yeah.
I believe the latest numbers that we saw, we were maybe second or third at the
They're
current
probably fake news.
So second-
I'm going to go get
You're
tested.
second or third lowest.
lowest. That's
Yeah,
correct.
we used to be, okay, just like you said, a nursing home. I'm going to get tested tomorrow for physical, and that'll be in the negative columns. That will help us.
That's very good. Glad to hear
Mr.
that.
Manager, does that 48 cases in Fuquay-Varina include the entire zip code, 27526 zip code?
I think that's just the
I think it's just the city
the
limits.
city limits. Now, they have another number for the zip code.
That's
Let me rephrase my comment. The zip code is what I was speaking about. We are in first place for. And I did speak wrong on that momentarily, but that is what we are first place in.
That might be the case, yes, sir. Continuing on the theme of COVID-19, as it relates to COVID-19 reimbursement, Assistant Town Manager Matthews and our Finance Department have submitted paperwork for reimbursable project expenses for the town's COVID-19 reimbursable costs to date. We will likely be submitting for additional reimbursements in the next 2 or 3 months upon the completion of year-end closeout paperwork with the town's finances. Our Finance Department is working with all of our departments on fiscal year-end and loading the FY21 budget that was recently approved by the town board into our system. Finance Department continues to work to establish payment plans for customers that are falling into the category of deferred utility payments under the governor's executive orders. Our IT department is working to fill a staffing vacancy right now and continues to focus on several initiatives to enhance network security and expansion of Wi-Fi and camera infrastructure in our parks. Our Parks and Recreation Cultural Resources Department continues to maintain parks that are experiencing, certainly the ones that are experiencing high utilization and usage, completing special projects and developing contingency plans for late summer operations of our splash pad potentially, depending on how data and metrics continue to proceed, and fall youth sports. But all of this will be informed by national, state, and certainly local public health guidance. Our Arts Center has kicked off limited activities, and demand for those limited arts experience activities have been very strong. We've had a number of summer camps. Again, we're limiting the number of available spots in our summer camps, but they have all sold out very quickly, and there's a waiting list.
How many are we limited to?
Each session or each class is limited to 6 individuals.
Okay.
So it goes very quickly, as you can imagine. Continuing to evaluate opportunities for safe, modified programming. For example, outdoor classes is something that we are exploring at the moment. And the Bengal Cubs, as you might be aware of, they've been a popular hit in our community thus far, and we know citizens are continuing to wander around the downtown area looking for these Bengal Cubs in our downtown, which is great. Hopefully they're getting, they're located in areas where they're getting some of our downtown businesses some exposure. Our Public Works Department continues to collect garbage, recycling, and yard debris while educating customers on the elimination of bagged yard debris effective on July 1st. And our Streets Department is busy tackling projects and mowing as we continue to experience a very wet month. I do want to just provide a quick update on the North Carolina League of Municipalities City Vision Conference. I, along with our Assistant Town Manager Matthews, attended today the virtual NCLM conference. This was one of 3 days that they're having a virtual conference. Today's content included an economic forecast report from North Carolina State Professor Dr. Mike Walden, a Lunch and Learn presentation from Ted Abernathy, who is the managing partner of Economic Leadership LLC, on preparing for the next new normal after COVID-19, and a panel discussion titled Just Do It, Buildable Steps That Will Help Your Town Develop Economic Growth. Dr. Walden spoke about the quote-unquote mandated recession, recession recovery, and long-run impacts. During his presentation, he acknowledged that the economy is in fact in a recession that was mandated for the betterment of public health, and that it is expected that the recovery may occur in the beginning of the third quarter of this year. He also advised as to economic predictions that 15 to 20% of all big, medium, and small businesses across the country won't come back and will effectively have filed for bankruptcy as a result of COVID-19. He warned of revenue shortfalls at the federal and state level, and he discussed what the economic debt and recovery patterns are projected to look like following this pandemic. The panel discussion related to towns developing economic growth primarily revolved around downtowns and main streets, and speakers included Main Street managers and Department of Commerce officials. There still seems to be a great deal of focus and positive outlook related to downtown mixed-use developments. Our Economic Development Department management will be, again, interviewing a handful of candidates for the Economic Development Director position in the coming weeks, and I'll continue to advise you as how that is progressing in the future. I do want to report that Alyssa Stafford and Josh Jurius were promoted to Senior Long Range Planner and Senior Current Planners, respectively, in our Planning Department. We will be looking to backfill their positions immediately as development continues to flow in at a steady pace. In the first 16 days of June, we have had 32 single-family home permits issued, so June is off to a good start. Since our last town board meeting, I attended a virtual meeting with other Wake County and municipal officials to hear an update on the status of the county hotel occupancy and prepared meal tax reinvestment program. As you all are very well aware of, we have been the recipient of some of those funds in recent years with projects that we have worked on, most notably $500,000 for the Fleming Loop Park soccer complex. The short of it is that Wake County has seen a sharp decline in revenues since the start of COVID-19 as it relates to hotel stays, restaurant visits, entertainment venues, as you can imagine. And it is expected that this will have a ripple effect on the ability to reinvest in projects that they are not already committed to over at least the next 3 years and possibly upwards to 10 years. This more or less means that this program will not be an avenue that will be likely fruitful for future grant opportunities until economic conditions improve and recovery of those funds occurs. We'll continue to keep a close eye on it, but this is just the reality that we find ourselves in. Ron Nessery with their engineering department. He's a engineering department construction inspector. He is retiring, and his last day of work will be at the end of this week. We've known about his retirement for some time, but his last week of work will be this week. Ron has been a construction inspector since May of 2009, and he has been a reliable and hardworking employee. He has been instrumental in street resurfacing, development infrastructure, the construction of Northeast Judd Parkway, and many other successful town projects. We hate to see him go, but he is going to do what he has always done best, which is be a good grandfather and a good family man, and he's moving out of state to follow his family and his grandchildren. So we wish Ron the very best of luck as he enters this next chapter of his life. On the theme of retirement, Police Captain Jeff Dunn has announced his retirement from the town. He will retire effective October 1st, but his last official day with the department will be September 8th of this year. Captain Dunn has 23 years of service with the town, 7 years with the U.S. Army, and 2 years with the Lillington and Broadway police departments. He is retiring at the age of 55, so very fortunate that he still has his health and he's going to be able to enjoy his retirement, which we're happy about. His dedication and service to the town has been above reproach, and his leadership and value that he has added to the Fuquay-Varina Police Department will be missed. To that end, however, we do wish him and his family the absolute best as he moves on to the next chapter of his life as well. And we'll continue to kind of update you on any plans that are related to his retirement. And finally, I was planning to mention this. I will reiterate it and mention it again, but Ms. Ziegler certainly referenced it in her public comments. But the Fuquay-Varina Unity Walk is scheduled for Saturday, June 27th at 8:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. The walk will start at South Park and it will end at Falcon Park. Members of the Fuquay-Varina Police Department will be joining individuals in the community in the walk. Certainly tonight you have been invited as elected officials, so if your schedule permits for you to participate, you now know the date and times for that. Organizers are requesting that those who attend and join the walk, please wear face masks. We are still in a pandemic. The organizers include several past graduates of the Fuquay-Varina Chamber of Commerce Leadership Program, including Ty Ziegler and Will Wingfield, who are names in the community that you're very well aware of. Additionally, Cassandra Flowers, another member of our community who most, if not all of you know, is assisting with efforts to plan and organize the Unity Walk. There will be a planned moment of silence to reflect and remember those individuals who, there's no other way to say it other than senselessly or needlessly lost their lives. And so they will be remembered as a part of this Unity Community Walk on the 27th of June.
You know, Adam, I might comment on that. Many other communities are doing the Unity Walks, you know, as well, which I encourage everybody, you know, to come out and participate in.
Yes, sir. Of course, we've already announced this, but I'm just reminding the town board, and we hate that we're having to even have this announcement, but we do want to just remind the board and the public that we have canceled the July 3rd Independence Day fireworks event. We're hoping to pick that up July 3rd of 2021 and make it a very special and nice event for the community, assuming that we're in a better situation from a public health perspective. I also want to remind the board, as is customary There is no meeting on July 6th. We have one meeting in the month of July, and that'll be on July 13th at 7 p.m. in the town boardroom. I also want to remind the town board, again, one meeting for the month, so no July 6th meeting, no July 21st meeting, one meeting July 13th.
And aren't we hoping that that meeting will be partially open to the public?
I don't think so, given
We're not there yet.
given the most recent
Statistics.
I think we'll.
We were planning on having that one being our first one that was back open.
I think we were hopeful, yes, sir, that in
It's just not going to work.
that in phase we would be transitioning phase 3, and it would provide for an opportunity. But I think that in the best interest of everyone, that probably won't be for that meeting. I did include a agenda abstract and memo in your agenda materials, just providing the board a quick update on the restroom project effort for both the Willow Lakes Town Park and the James A. Campbell Park restroom projects. We did put that project back out for bid with both of those restrooms versus just the James A. Campbell Park. Those bids did come back again, significantly higher than what the project budget allows for. And so at this time, I'm recommending that we reject all the bids for the restrooms, and we will look to identify funding for permanent restrooms at both parks in future years through either grant partnership opportunities or as a part of our development of our 5-year plan. But right now, it certainly exceeds what we had expected. We even looked at potentially doing a prefabbed restroom facility, but after further investigating that, the quality of that work, that product, the long-term maintenance and sustainability of that would just, we believe we would just find ourselves in a situation where we'd be having to address that from a maintenance perspective and potentially from a whole new restroom perspective just a short few years down the road. And so that didn't seem to be a logical or reasonable path forward. So again, I think there's a goal that we have permanent restrooms in all of our town parks at some point in time in the future. We need to revisit how we're going to pay for those under the knowledge that we have now and get a plan together before I can make a recommendation that we proceed forward.
Mr. Mayor, may I make a comment?
Yes, Commissioner Harris.
Future years is very non-specific as to a time frame, because this has been a project that has been on in the 5-year plan for several years, and now we are moving it again. And I just think that we need to identify a target date or time and get this done, because the expectation has been over the years that we have heard from the citizens who are requesting and desire to have restroom facilities at that park. It is a town park. You know, it's interesting, the same restroom facilities are at the dog park, exact same thing. And I think that when you look at the real message that we are sending by having the kind of restroom facilities there now and delaying doing anything to improve those conditions is not a good message we want to send. So I think it's important for us to, if we're going to move this from the budget year, to identify a definite time frame where we can work toward to complete this project. Do you have any idea, Mr. Town Manager, what do you interpret to me?
I don't have a
future
plan
years?
at the moment, sir. I was frankly hoping and expecting when we bid the project back out with 2 restrooms versus 1, we would get economies of scale and would get a price point that we would be able to proceed forward with the project. That we could feel good about, or I could feel good about making that recommendation. Given that that's not the case, I need to go back and really develop a plan that I can present to you. I don't disagree that it would be best long-term to sort of have a schedule for how we are going to get permanent restrooms in all of our town parks and prioritize those. But right now, sitting here tonight, I don't have a exact date or year or time frame that I could provide. But I can commit to coming back to the town board with a plan that you can review and either thumbs up or thumbs down on.
Let me ask you this, Adam. Have you thought about any temporary, like during the summer months when the park is really utilized to be able to judge how much it's truly, needed?
Temporary.
Well, I see these little porta-johns.
We have porta-johns there now.
You got porta-johns there now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, how often are they?
We don't keep somebody there to ticker people going in and out of them, so I couldn't give you an answer on how often they are or are not used.
Okay.
Parks like the James A. Campbell Park and even some of our other smaller neighborhood parks are not staffed, they're not manned, so
how often are they, do we rent them by the week or the month, or how do you do those things?
Well, the park's there for the public to use at any time.
No, the porta-johns.
The porta-johns are rented monthly.
Monthly.
Mm-hmm.
And to clean weekly then.
That's right.
Should be. What is, last time this bathroom facility was built, what did it cost?
We did build a bathroom facility several years ago for somewhere in the $85,000 to $90,000 range.
And what did this latest bid come back at?
$165,000, I believe.
And previous before that was 220?
220.
So it seems like we need more favorable bid.
So we did get 4
Conditions.
bids, and we did get a more favorable bid this time when we got rid of the federal requirements. Now, we had to give up federal grant funding, about $23,000 that we said we will be willing to forego if we can get bids that get closer to our budget. And of course, they came down, but they didn't come down
I think this
close
amount
to
of
our
waiting until the
budget.
bid climate is more attractive. Simply right now, private industry has tons of work, and
That's true.
That's why they're throwing out these huge numbers, and then to turn around and spend taxpayer dollars at double or triple the price is not something I'm in favor of doing at all at this point. But I do think there'll be a time in the future that within the 5-year horizon, as you mentioned, that bid climate will be much more attractive and can get more done and get something like this done. But for the town to spend double or triple what it cost last time, that seems silly to me.
Mr. Mayor, one other comment. I appreciate your comment, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, but as you're being in the construction business, housing costs will more than likely continue to rise. It's going to be the same thing with construction costs. I don't know what ideal figure we're looking for as far as less than. It's just something that has to be done. And I think as we continue to wait, construction costs may go up, and then we'll come back again and then have the same argument that we just can't find something that's cost efficient. I think the matter is for us to decide as a board, do we have a commitment to really get this project done and then make a decision to get it done? I think we're at that point because we've been, as people say, kicking this can down the road for about 10 years now. And it's really almost unfair to the citizens there in that neighborhood for us to continuously make a promise that we haven't kept, and they see no indication at all and hear no indication at all that we want to do it. Because to hear a comment future years, that doesn't even speak to a time frame or any policy or activity that we heretofore use to implement policies and get projects completed. So I think we need, and my expectation is that there would be something more definitive as it relates to this project. Those are my comments, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Harris. Yes.
To Commissioner Harris's point, I think the town board, I think what we should expect is that the small restroom model for which we have
It's going to cost more.
is going to cost more. And a plan in terms of a schedule and a time frame for which we can do the work, and we can understand how those costs impact the drawdown of funds within our reserve accounts for rec unit fees or for general fund dollars. I think management needs some direction. At one point, the town board voted and approved that they were willing to put a restroom at this park for $85,000. As a town board wanting to put a restroom at this park and other parks that may have the similar model for $150,000 to $175,000.
Let me say it like,
or more, really.
Like this. I think that you ought to look at a little bit different scope Maybe it's a way that you can incorporate some building and the bathrooms, or attach it, to something, but to have a generic plan that would work at several different parks, and have it where it's not just the bathroom. If it's going to be a programming
Well, that we have that.
event, well, I understand, but it needs to be incorporated, not only this park, but at several parks, would be my thought. So you're not just doing bathrooms, you're really looking at how you're gonna use that park. How you're gonna do events, at that park. And
Right
maybe
now
we
our-
spend more money like you're talking about, but we get more bang for our buck, so to speak.
Right now, James A. Campbell Park is a small park. It's got a playground. It's got a picnic shelter. It's got a modest amount of green space.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
all pretty familiar with it.
We're not. There's not much programming you can do at that park, like at, for example, a Falcon Park that's got a baseball field, or a Fleming Loop Park that's got 7 soccer fields. There, you would need concessions. You would need some bigger component to be able to serve more than just one function, like a restroom. We have models and concepts for those types of restrooms as well.
But
for a small
over there,
park,
you've got a picnic area, don't you?
we have a shelter.
Shelter. My thought.
An
would
open
be to
air
spend-
shelter.
Spend some time with Jonathan and see how in the world in the future that we're gonna program things into this. And, maybe it's 20 people, 50 people, 30 people. I'm not sure the number of people, but if you had a design that you could use, not only at this facility, but maybe at multiple facilities down the road.
Which we have.
Well, you just don't have one that works at this facility.
This is the
that's-
smallest design that we have.
Are you trying to do it within what you have there in that park? You started off at 85,000, now you're up to 100 and, how much?
The market's up to $150,000. We didn't increase the scope of the bathroom or anything. That is what the market is saying is the cost to build that.
Is
small.
is it in a separate building next to it, next to the pavilion, or?
Yes, it's in its own standalone building. That's correct. Pavilion's just an open air pavilion. I mean, there's nothing to attach to
The point
that.
is apple to apple. Apple to apple, it cost 85 last time, and now it costs double.
That's right.
For apple to apple comparison.
Exactly.
Well, we've used that 85,000 figure for about 4 years. I
Construction costs have not doubled other than market demand in 4 years.
understand that. But I mean, we have been using 85,000 for a long time. I like what I heard you say about, that, looking to develop a plan, a schedule on which we would try to plan to add certain amenities to the parks on a planned schedule. I think I look forward to hearing when we think we could do it here, because these residents have been asking for it, and we've been, some of us, I know I have, telling them we were going to get it, and now, once again,
And bringing a planned schedule back to the board is not a problem. We can sit down, put pen to paper, and bring that back. I just don't have that. Given that this information is very fresh, new, and recent, we have not had the opportunity to sit down as a staff and map that plan out for your consideration.
Let's do this. You got another meeting, the end of July.
July 13th,
Yeah. July the 13th.
correct?
So we're not meeting toward the end of July, it's actually the middle of July, pretty
Correct.
much.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we come back with some, with some thoughts about it then, if that's possible?
Sure. I mean, I think we'll have time to sit down and at least have the conversation
Okay.
internally, and we'll have a better understanding of where the restroom needs are throughout our entire network of parks, and we will have a better understanding of how a $150,000 to $175,000 small prototype. Of course, we would expect that the medium and large prototype restrooms that incorporate other functions into them, like concession stands, would be substantially even more than what the small prototype would be. And we can program out how those might be able to be funded in consideration of the 5-year plan that the town board has already adopted. Now, we have a finite amount and projected amount of rec unit fees and of general fund revenues. We've already identified, this board has already approved certain projects over the course of that 5-year horizon. Can we interject a few restrooms in there? Perhaps, maybe, I don't know, I need to look at that.
Yeah,
If
you
we
ought to
can't,
be able to, with the extra resources that we have, as I look at the growth.
well, I think we just need to look, I just think we need to look at it and see. But
Right.
it's possible we may be able to interject a few of those. If not, we may have to revisit the 5-year plan and reprioritize if that's what the board wants to do. However, it should be pretty fresh in the board's minds, the projects that you have recently endorsed and approved. And, will that be something you really want to kick back a year or two just to fit a restroom in? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. We'll just have to look at it.
You know,
The utilization numbers at the same time of any facility that's missing a restroom.
Yeah, well, I mean, short of us putting a person at the park for a week or 2 weeks to get a good sample size, it's very difficult for a park of that size that's unmanned for us to be able to do.
do we have a camera over there?
We do not.
Any one of our park facilities that's missing a bathroom does have to be by this point, but before I would be in favor of any location having, I'd have to have utilization numbers and spend the time having somebody count, because last thing I need to do is build bathrooms that are double the price or triple the price of the cost at a place does not have utilization that another place does or does not.
Well, one issue with that
Irregardless
is
of
that
this
people are not using a lot of people won't take their families when it's in the summertime and it's hot and you've got an outhouse. Basically, an outhouse is what a porta-john is.
Yeah.
That's what you've got to use when you take your children there, or when you take your family for a lunch or a picnic. So utilization, it's a number, but it's not. I just feel like it's not indicative of how it would be used if they had better facilities.
It's one of the indicators. It's not the only one, but it's an important one. Let me ask this question. Commissioner Harris, you said something about the dog park, that we don't have a restroom at the dog park.
We have porta-johns at the dog park as well. We do.
We have porta-johns.
That's right.
At the dog park.
Commissioner Harris's point is the same restroom facilities are at the dog park are at the James A. Campbell Park. And what I think your point, Commissioner Harris, was what message does it send that a dog park has portable restrooms and a human park has portable restrooms?
That's right.
But more than just dogs. Go to the dog park. Humans, you typically follow their dogs, and that's why the portable restrooms are there for that obvious reason.
The porta-johns over there?
No, dogs use the ground.
Yeah, the dogs use
Unfortunately.
the grounds. I was thinking that we had some he was saying we had bathrooms over there, but the porta-johns are like what we got at Campbell's.
I think his point was that
Yeah.
for the Campbell Park, it probably needs to be something better than a porta-john.
But if you look at the
Exactly.
use of the dog park and then you look at the use of Campbell Park, you probably run more into Mayor Pro Tem Massengill's point about utilization too. But let's do that. You come back to us and
We'll have some conversation internally over the next couple of weeks, and we'll bring back more information at the July 13th meeting.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I had a question
Thank you. Yes.
about how many parks do we currently have now that don't have a restroom?
I'll need to get back with you on that number. I don't know the exact number, Commissioner. I'll have to follow up with you on that.
And then my second question would be, would there be any usefulness in getting a lower price by coming together and bidding out multiple bathroom projects?
Well, we did 2 versus 1, and we saw some economies of scale there. We went from a $220,000 bid to $165,000. Yeah, sure, I would imagine if you threw 5 restrooms out there for bidding, you might get down to $120,000 $135,000 or $140,000. You might start seeing, and I'm just speculating on those numbers, you might start seeing it trickle down, because at that point, it becomes a bigger project and more profit margin probably for the contractor, and it becomes more appealing, so the pencil gets sharper. But
Well, and you
that's also a big chunk to bite off in one foul swoop as well.
Well, give us something interesting on the 13th of July.
I'll do my best, yes, sir.
Okay.
Well, you have given us some information tonight that we know, too, that we're in an unfavorable bidding climate, and probably in the near future going forward, there's not going to be a lot of grant money available.
Well, there would be no, well, I shouldn't say no. I mean, the only reason there was grant money available for the James A. Campbell Park was because of its geographic location. Mm-hmm. And so typically we would not expect to be able to get grant money for a public restroom at a town park facility unless it was a part of a bigger expansion project. For
Mm-hmm.
example, the Fleming Loop Park project, but I would tell you that neither the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund nor the Wake County thought that what they were investing in was for the restrooms. That was just sort of an ancillary. They were investing in the soccer fields is pretty much what they're investing in.
Yeah. Okey doke.
Just kind of continuing forward, you do have 3 first readings in your agenda materials, all zoning map amendments that will appear on the July 13th Town Board meeting. So with that said, Mr. Mayor, our country, our nation, is arguably different today than it was several weeks ago. And as a society, we've certainly had an opportunity to have some candid and challenging conversations within our community and within our state and certainly around our country. I personally have had on a daily basis some serious and important dialogue and conversations with both you, Mayor, regarding the topic of policing and regarding some of the social injustices and issues that we have seen around our country. And I've certainly had some very serious dialogue and discussion with our police chief over the last several weeks. One of the issues that has been a topic of conversation from the national level trickling all the way down to a local community level has been related to policing policies and particularly related to use of force and police brutality. And earlier tonight we heard a citizen call in and talk about the national campaign 8 Can't Wait that Chief Fonstock is going to address in her presentation in just a moment. Commissioner Harris spoke to it as well. We are certainly very well aware of the campaign and the program. I think just as a point of clarification, the caller said that the police department has adopted the 8 Can't Wait campaign or signed on to the 8 Can't Wait campaign. That has not happened. The police department, the town has not adopted or signed on to anything. But what we have done is studied very closely those 8 best practice policies in policing and have evaluated how our policies either align or do not align with those. I'm happy to say that they do align with those, and Chief will go into detail on that in just a moment. But I just want to make that point clear. We have presented prepared a presentation for you and the public this evening. We think it's very important that you as elected officials, we think it's very important that our public know what our policies are as it relates to these 8 topics or 8 areas. We think it's very important that our public knows what we are doing as a community, or as a police department rather, as it relates to community outreach. We think it's very important that our public knows what we are doing as it relates to recruiting a diverse workforce. We think it's very important that our community knows what we are doing across a spectrum of categories and areas as it relates to our police department. So we want to share that information with you as the elected body. We want to share that information with our community. We want to be absolutely transparent about it. We think it's important that the public be aware of how we approach these difficult conversations, and how we approach the policies of good, safe, impartial policing. And so with that, I'm going to get quiet and ask our police chief, who is in the room with us this evening, to go over this information with the town board. And both of us are certainly here, able to answer any questions that you might have. But primarily, this is information that you are able to take back into the community as you are asked about these matters as well. So,
Adam, I want to make a comment or two.
You have the clicker? You do have. Yes, sir.
I want to make a comment or two before we turn it over to our chief. Our chief has been with us now, how many years, Chief?
5 years this month. Sir.
Wow, I can't hardly believe it. 5 years this month. She came out of one of the toughest cities in the state of North Carolina. And it was one of the reasons that many of us really liked Chief Feinstock. She has implemented things in Fuquay-Varina in a way that we've never seen before. Brought us more into the, we used to say the 20th century. Now I reckon we're the 21st century and moving, kind of beyond. But has helped prepare our community, not necessarily for where we are at this particular moment, but has helped prepare the community for many, many things that make us a better community today because of her time spent here the last 5 years. And I think that part of the consideration is a big deal. And I know that she has put her body, mind, and soul, into this job. And it's a tough assignment.
It is.
To be a police chief, and to be a mayor somewhere is a tough assignment now. Chief Feinstock, we turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Commissioners and Mr. Manager, for the opportunity to share information with you and our community tonight. Yes, Mayor, it's been 5 years that I've been with the town of Fuquay-Varina, and it's still an honor, and I take my oath of office extremely seriously. What's been happening in our country, and it's not just been recently, over many years, there are problems in policing. I'll go ahead and tell you that. But when I took my oath of office here, I took the oath to make a difference here in Fuquay-Varina, working with everyone to improve our operations, our policies, our training, to make our agency one of the best agencies in the country. And we're not perfect. We're continuing to evaluate to make our department even better. So when evaluating what has been occurring in our country, I have tasked my staff to look at every part of our operations to see how we can improve. But before we move forward, I want to make sure that you know and our community knows, and I've written a few things down just to make sure that I get everything across tonight. But as members of communities across the country and locally, to include members of our department, continue to express pain and frustration surrounding the tragic death of George Floyd, as well as national examples preceding and sadly subsequently to that tragedy. Many questions have been asked of the Fuquay-Varina Police Department, along with many other agencies in our country. Many of these questions revolve around how the department addresses various aspects of use of force, bias, racism, technology, policies, training, and officer complaints. As your chief, I understand that effective policing requires the trust and partnership of the community we serve, and transparency plays a critical role in maintaining that relationship. So I've put together some information working with our manager and my staff to inform our community of our current policies, procedures, and training requirements, including the mechanisms for transparency that we currently practice. There's been a lot of discussion about, let's see if we can get this working. Well, Scott, ahead.
There it goes.
There it goes. There we go. About the 8 Can't Wait program. And I know our community has been sending me some emails and phone calls, and I've been having conversations with our community, but we'll be sharing this also publicly, but tonight's the first opportunity to share it with you. So what is the 8 Can't Wait program? Excuse me. So it's a national campaign identifying a set of recommended best practice policies for policing that address various aspects of use of force, bias, racism, technology training, and officer complaints. Here they are. This is what's been shared, and there's specific policy recommendations regarding banning chokeholds and strangleholds, requiring de-escalation, requiring warning before shooting, requiring exhaust all alternatives before shooting, a duty to intervene, ban shooting at moving vehicles, require use of force continuum, and require comprehensive reporting. And when I'm sharing this with you tonight, I'll be referring exactly to our policies, procedures, and training as we go through this to show you what we're doing to meet the 8 Can't Wait. So how do we compare those to the 8 Can't Wait recommended best practice policies? So on the first one, banning chokeholds and strangleholds, our policies align with this recommendation. The use of chokeholds, strangleholds, and all other similar holds that choke or restrict a person's ability to breathe or flow of blood to the brain are prohibited as a means of restraining an arrestee. This policy was in place for many years prior to the policy recommendation for police agencies to incorporate, and this is included within our General Order 8.0, response to resistance or aggression in department-issued weapons. Under requiring de-escalation, again, our policies align with this recommendation. Here's again a reference to our policy. Our policy states that an officer shall use de-escalation techniques and other alternatives to higher levels of force consistent with his or her training whenever possible and appropriate before resorting to force, and to reduce the need for force. De-escalation is defined as taking action or communicating verbally or non-verbally during a potential force encounter in an attempt to stabilize the situation and reduce the immediacy of the threat so that more time, options, and resources can be called upon to resolve the situation without the use of force or with a reduction in the force necessary. And again, this is with our policies, General Order 8, response to resistance or aggression. We also have it within the department-issued weapons, and we also have a domestic violence lethality assessment program that assists us with getting resources to domestic violence victims through Interact that our officers work with to help potentially reduce an option or an issue with domestic violence occurring by getting options to the family and the victim. The requirement to provide a warning before shooting, again, we align with this recommendation. This is within our policies, our General Order 8, once again. Every reasonable effort should occur to provide a verbal warning and or verbal de-escalation prior to using deadly force. Officers' reactions will be dictated by the hostile actions of the suspect and the need for immediate control. This requirement to provide reasonable effort should occur unless the delay would subject officers and the public at large to a higher risk of harm in the use of force encounters. Under requiring exhausting all alternatives before shooting, our policies align with this recommendation. Officers will exhaust all reasonable and effective means of control and de-escalation before using a firearm. Officers are authorized to discharge a firearm at another person in the performance of duty only when lethal force is justified and our policy is based upon North Carolina General Statutes 15A401. So we have not only our policies, but we are also referencing our North Carolina General Statutes, so North Carolina law on use of force and deadly force within our state. Under the next one, a duty to intervene, our policies align with that as well. Our policies state officers are required to intervene if they observe excessive force. It is the officer's responsibility to intervene and stop excessive force immediately. An additional policy states that if an employee is aware of any Fuquay-Varina Police Department's employee that's engaged in excessive force, whether on or off duty, he or she has an obligation to immediately report such knowledge to his or her supervisor, who shall then report such information to the Office of the Chief of Police. Employees may also report directly to me for an investigation to follow. So we have a whistleblower policy that I implemented upon coming here, and that was also to apply to certain grants, and it impacted our ability to get body cameras, which I'll refer to in just a minute when we discuss that. And again, this goes back to our General Order Number 8, response to resistance or aggression and department-issued firearms. Additionally, officers are required to determine if the individual under arrest is injured and must render first aid. So we're going beyond just a duty to intervene here. We're talking about medical assistance to help our community, our suspects. Officers must notify communications to request EMS for further medical assistance. As well, the employee is required to notify his or her supervisor of the incident for the supervisor's response to the same. So they have to determine if that individual is injured and render first aid. So again, we have the whistleblowing policy, our use of force policy, and the first aid policy. And we were one of the first agencies in Wake County to begin administering Narcan to overdose patients within or subjects within our jurisdiction, and we have saved lives of individuals within our community because of this. So that goes above and beyond what is required with this. So another one, ban shooting at moving vehicles. We align with this recommendation as well. Our policy prohibits firing at or moving from a vehicle. The requirement is only to ban shooting at moving vehicles. Ours says at or from a moving vehicle in an attempt to disable a vehicle. Firing at a moving vehicle is prohibited unless the officer reasonably believes that there is an imminent threat of serious bodily injury or death to themselves or a third party. If the officer does not use deadly force, officers are held accountable for the decisions they make. Officers receive training that provides them with an understanding of the limitations of firing at vehicles, and we cover this during our use of force training, during our firearms training every single year. Officers are required to review this policy and sign off that they have read and understood this policy. The next one, require use of force continuum. We absolutely align with this as well. We train on this annually. We have a policy, the use of force continuum, that limits the type of force and or weapons that can be used to respond to specific types of resistance. The options of force, professional presence, verbal commands, soft hand control, mechanical compliance, OC, pepper spray, taser, impact striking weapons, less than lethal specialty, impact munitions, and lethal force. Officers shall be in compliance with North Carolina General Statute, it should say 15A401, and reference again the same policies I've mentioned and Department of General Statutes. In all instances, officers will seek to employ the minimum amount of force required to successfully overcome physical resistance, prevent escape, and effect arrests. And right here, excessive force is prohibited. Officers do not have to exhaust other levels of force options before moving to another, as long as it is reasonable, justified, and according to law. And I referenced to you Graham versus Connor from 1989 as a reference to you, talking about the standard of reasonableness, objective reasonable standard. This standard looks at the facts of a case as they were presented to the officer when the decision to use force was made, and to determine if the actions were reasonable given the circumstances and what was known to the officer at the time. And these factors include whether the suspect poses an immediate threat to the officer or others, the severity of the crime, whether the suspect is actively resisting arrest, and whether the suspect is a flight risk or attempting to escape custody. So, again, our policy is according to law. It's based on the reasonableness of force and the circumstances they faced, like I just discussed, and current force options reflect the objective reasonableness standard. So we are referring to a Supreme Court case, our North Carolina law, and our policies.
And you know, the other thing you told me the other day is everybody's got a body camera.
Yes, sir, I'll cover that too.
Okay.
That's on our topics,
All
just
right.
to make sure everybody understands.
Yes.
The next one, require comprehensive reporting. And if anybody knows me throughout my career, they knew I was the documentation queen, and my employees know that too. I am someone that ensures that we have appropriate documentation. So, require comprehensive reporting. We align with that as well. The policies and practices a comprehensive use of force reporting requirement mandating officers to document a variety of circumstances, including any time an officer points a firearm at anyone. And that's one of the requirements within this reporting system. We also maintain these personnel records in accordance with North Carolina personnel law and North Carolina records retention schedules through the North Carolina Department of Natural and Cultural Resources requirements that you adopted just recently, the more updated version through a commission action. Additionally, we currently participate in a voluntary pilot study program through the FBI's National Use of Force Data Collection Program. That's something that we enter every single month, and it's voluntary, and we don't have to do that. So that's above and beyond what is required with this. So again, referenced our 8.0 once again, and I also referenced 705-2 internal affairs investigations, because if we notice that there is excessive force, it's immediately investigated and addressed through our personnel policy, disciplinary actions. If it's a violation of law, then I contact the district attorney's office for a criminal investigation. Body camera program. Again, comprehensive reporting. This links to that from a documentation and evidentiary issue. We implemented this program, our body camera program, in 2017. Many of you remember that because we got a grant through the North Carolina Governor's Crime Commission. The grant has ended, and at the time we had everyone with a body camera. So now when we add positions, you notice within our budgetary plan that every time we add an officer, we also include a body camera for that officer so that we can continue to offer that as a methodology for accountability with our officers. The body camera software integrates with our mobile in-car video camera system software. We updated that system in 2015. Thank you, Scott, our IT director, for working with us with these projects. Your help on these has made a smooth transition. Body cameras are required to be activated on response to police calls for service, traffic stops, pursuits, offense involving weapons, violence, arrests, investigative actions, use of force, defensive actions, or other similar interactions. So basically what our officers do every single day is captured on body camera. Officers review their policy regarding the body camera usage annually and are trained on their usage. Our new employees are trained on their usage, and we inspect. You have to inspect what you expect, and so we do that. We have anything that comes up, whether it's an accident, traffic accident, a pursuit, use of force, I always say, let me see that video. So this goes into General Order number 10, our body-worn cameras, and 10.01, police computer equipment and software. Any questions so far? So we got some
more to
to
the
go.
presentation, but this is just a quick pause for questions as it relates to the 8 policy recommendations under the 8 Can't Wait program and how the Fuquay-Varina policies align with those 8 recommendations. Are there any
So
questions?
what we're really saying is we've been aligned with those 8 for a good while.
We checked the
Yes.
box, yes, sir.
We've checked the boxes on those for a good number of years, really.
Yeah, we've improved upon those policies, some in the last 5 years, certain ones, certainly body cameras being one of those.
Right.
But in many cases, some of those policies existed even prior to Chief Fonstock's tenure here.
Yes. We are constantly evaluating our policies.
Getting
And,
better.
and even so, right now, I have directed my staff to look at every policy we have to make sure that we're doing things to the best practices that are professional and respect all community members, and to address any kind of issues that have been brought up in this 8 Can't Wait or even further conversations.
Any questions by any board members at this point? We're going to have a little bit of a pause here, and,
I got one question.
okay, Marilyn, Commissioner Gardner?
I can't read that really good so it would, like lots of times when we hear some of these reports on the news or whatever, someone did not have their body camera on. What triggers when the body camera is running and when it isn't, or what is that policy?
Our officers have to cut it on when they have those interactions. It is required. If we find that an officer has not, they receive disciplinary action. It is a very serious violation.
And Chief, there's certain cameras, like such as in the car, that, do they go on with the blue lights?
Right. That's our mobile in-car video cameras that are automatically cut on, and our cameras also capture a few seconds prior to even cutting it on. Okay?
But the body cameras, they are important to the police officers too.
Yes.
They're equally as important to the police officer as they are to the people maybe they're trying to apprehend or deal with, because it's evidence that the police officer did the right thing, and training-wise. And
Yes, sir. I will tell you that when we were looking at implementing this program, I surveyed our officers, and they were overwhelmingly supportive of moving to body cameras. We had already had mobile in-car video camera systems for years prior, and the officers were supportive of that, but we went to it, and it's been a very smooth transition.
And there are other towns in Wake County, I believe, that do not have body cameras.
That is correct. Some of them are investigating the usage of it right now, but we're already ahead of that curve.
And we did that, was it with 2 grants or 1? Didn't we?
We had 2.
We had 2. It was
had
over a couple-year period,
Yes,
maybe.
sir.
And now we've got it incorporated into the additional staffing that we make, and it's all tied together. But our police department is one of the police departments in Wake County that have full documentation, should have full documentation of everything that they do. Any other questions of the chief before we move on?
Mr. Mayor, I just have one question. Chief, thank you for going over those. They were very detailed and specific. I just have one question. Are those policies part of a police manual, or are they incorporated in your overall training module, or how does the officer know about those specific policies?
We have manuals, but we also have them on our shared drive. So
Okay.
every officer that comes in day one begin reviewing our policies.
Okay.
So it's incorporated into our field training program. They have access to them on the shared drive that was brought up within the past 5 years through just changes in technology. So anytime that we have a new policy, it is added to that. Everything's online for our officers, or they actually have paper copies within their own books.
Okay.
That is accessible at any point in time and referenced at any point in time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And it might be, Adam, that you could send this to everybody.
The slide deck from
The slide.
I can send it to the town board, and we certainly are going to talk about how we're going to share this information with the public
Sure.
towards the end of this presentation.
Okay. I would like for the town board to have it ahead of the public, if you could figure that out.
Okay. Some additional Fuquay-Varina department policies that line up with 8 Can't Wait, and in addition to, just based upon having conversations with our community members. We'll start off with non-biased policing. We have a general order specifically called non-biased policing that impacts all of our operations, to include the general statute referring traffic stop reporting and documenting all of our traffic stops. The Fuquay-Varina Police Department is committed to bias-free professional policing, the practice of carrying out our duties with respect and dignity while protecting the constitutional rights of all. And this policy is reviewed annually. Just to give you an idea, anytime that we have a policy that is developed, it is sent out on email so that every employee has a copy of that. It's shared on the shared drive, and officers and employees have to sign what is called a policy acknowledgement form. That's something I implemented when I came here. Every employee reads the policy and they acknowledge that they have read it, understood it, and know where it's accessed. And it is, I keep a file on all that. If there is a policy violation, then I refer back to that form with their signature on it that shows that you read it and you understood it and are held accountable for it. That's above and beyond just sending out a policy. We also formally adopted the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics within policy, which states in part, and I'm just taking a snippet from that, but since referring to non-biased policing, I will never act officiously or permit personal feelings, prejudices, animosities, or friendships to influence my decisions. In addition, talking about training, above and beyond just having non-biased policing. When I came in, I brought in fair and impartial policing training, IDEA training through a Raleigh group to discuss the historical issues with racial disparity within our nation. And it's called Impacting Disparities, Disproportionality, Equity and Analysis, Bias-Based Profiling we've discussed. Had training in implicit and explicit bias. I brought in specific trainers for that. We also participate in True Access's cohort diversity and inclusion training for law enforcement officers. You may be familiar with True Access through our barbershop rap sessions. I was hoping to have a secondary cohort class back in March, but unfortunately COVID-19 put a pause on that, but that'll be coming again as soon as we have the ability to start training in larger groups again, because I want to incorporate some of that training with community members. And strategies to improve interactions with minority youth. This is just a snapshot of some of the training that we have related to non-biased policing. Also, just recently, I had all supervisors complete training and just some of these topics: first line supervision, false arrests and liability for law enforcement ethics, personnel guidelines for law enforcement, listening skills, diversity benefits for law enforcement, email in the workplace, responsible use of social media, sexual harassment prevention, wrongful termination, and RETA, EEOC laws, federal discrimination, applicant screening, hiring. Supervisors has also attended numerous supervision, accountability, and leadership courses to provide quality supervision, accountability, and oversight of personnel. I have one lieutenant at NC State's Administrative Officers Management Program right now. Part of that course discusses legal updates where they go over constitutional law and issues related to some of the topics that we're talking about right now. But this refers back to our General Order 3.11, non-biased policing, and our Law Enforcement Code of Ethics. And talking about also, when we have a police officer or a candidate apply, we provide an extensive and thorough selection and hiring process. Some of the conversations that you've been hearing, I know some of the conversations have been talking about a screening process nationally to have an officer that has had a historical issue with excessive force have some kind of registry program so that they are not hired. We have an extensive and thorough selection and hiring process. All potential candidates for police officer participate in an interview board, a thorough background investigation, and we even have home visits and check with neighbors, interview neighbors, check out where any kind of where they've lived, any past work experience. Polygraph examination occurs. Some agencies don't even use the polygraph. We use that to review the actual background. A thorough psychological evaluation with a licensed psychiatrist. A medical examination, which of course includes drug testing. The background includes a criminal history, driving history check and evaluation, as well as personal, academic, and professional history. So we look at everywhere they worked. We also check with North Carolina Criminal Justice Training and Standards to review if they were a police officer with another organization to determine if they were under investigation for any kind of complaint history, use of force, or any kind of issues with those agencies. So our officers are certified through the North Carolina Criminal Justice Education Training Standards Commission. They also conduct a secondary background, reviewing all the paperwork that was submitted. As well, we routinely conduct inspections of all of our current employee work activities through supervisory review of employee performance via a combination of on-view inspections, call for service review, meetings, video review, complaint history review, personnel file review, early warning system, multiple incident involvement review, mentoring, and overall supervision of the employee. Some of our community outreach in the past 5 years. This is just a snapshot. It is certainly not comprehensive, but we've hosted and participated in a variety of community-oriented programs annually throughout the entire community to enhance community partnerships, to build trust and police legitimacy, as well as develop quality police and community partnerships. Some of these examples just include our Citizens Police Academy, and I recommend for any of our community members and even any of our commissioners here today, you're welcome to participate in this program. It provides with more extensive looks at our activities, our training, our policies, use of force. We have a full class about use of force, a continuum, and talk about state law in that class, and it's been very useful to our members and officers.
How long does the class take?
It's about once a week for about 8 to 10 weeks, and we may expand, add some new things in there that we've had some interest from some of our past members. But it takes about 2.5 to 3 hours every Thursday night over that time frame, and our employees teach this class, and it ranges from even talking with me, my captains, my investigators, my supervisors, my subject matter experts, my instructors, going over topics and issues. And it gives a really good picture and view of law enforcement and your police department. So I highly recommend that.
How many times a year do you do it?
We do it once right now just because of just the man hours that takes to put on something like this, because it's comprehensive. Yeah. But we usually start in January and it runs till the end of March. And we had to put it again. We actually stopped it this year because of COVID-19. We have one more class in the graduation that we're planning when we have the limitations restrictions lifted. But it's a very popular program, and we may end up offering not only a secondary Citizens Police Academy annually, but I'm also looking at having a youth teen Citizens Police Academy to assist in developing those relationships, educating, and perhaps assisting with our recruitment pool in the future, similar to our Police Explorer program. So that's something that I'm looking at.
Graduation is. I'd like to come to.
Yes, sir. Absolutely, and I hope to do it maybe in our new police department.
There you go. Oh, good.
So of course we have our Police Explorer program. We have our great program, Gang Resistance Education, that we're actively involved with in Lincoln Heights Elementary. Lieutenant Hinton does an exceptional job with that class. Yeah, we have, of course, the Million Father March on the first day of school at Lincoln Heights. Several of you participate in that as well. The All-in-Community Unity events. We have an All-in-Community Cookout a couple years ago that we had in Falcon Park. If you remember, that was a wonderful outreach initiative, and I've had a community member reach out to me again to do this again. Again, we're looking at COVID-19 because of just the number of people that would be involved in that. So I hope to get back with you on that. Of course, you've heard about our Froyo with the Popo. That was a great event, frozen yogurt with our officers at one of our local restaurants. And during that, we engaged with youth and also had a class about right there at the event about what to do when you're stopped by the police. Talk about your rights and answer questions during those engagement opportunities. National Night Out. We've had church and neighborhood meetings. Coffee with a Cop. We've had that since 2015. That's one of our most popular programs, and that gives our community the opportunity to meet our officers outside of that 911 call, outside of that traffic stop, and ask questions. Similarly to what I'm presenting to you today, when they ask us, well, what's your use of force policy? What about this? What about that? This gives them an opportunity in a non-threatening and comfortable environment to ask the questions and get to know the men and women of our organization, to know that we're people behind the badge. We're family members. We're just like anyone else. We just have a different career choice. We've also had our barbershop rap sessions. I'm very proud of that. We were attending barbershop rap sessions regionally in Cary, And the same organizers for that through True Access helped bring the program here and met with me, and we had a good meeting, and Shane, with Extraordinary Cuts, graciously opened his doors to us to begin those wrap sessions, and we have been building that and building that. We've had some Zoom ones recently since we couldn't meet in person, and it's expanding, so we're still excited to continue those to bring conversations about race and policing in our community. We've also had Teen Day. We read books with children, painting with the police, cops in the park, Know Your Rights education, where we go out and provide information, and we actually have come up with a handout now, a flyer to provide to individuals to know what their rights are. Community watch programs. There's just been so many activities, which you're all familiar with our ongoing initiatives, and we're going to continue to do that. I'm just hoping that COVID-19 allows us to get back out there once that diminishes.
Commissioner Harris, you might want to comment on the national night out, because I know you were involved in that when it first started.
Yeah, that was part of a nationwide program. It was when I was working with a substance abuse program, drug prevention program, and the entire goal of that night was to bring cross-section of the community together, to include law enforcement and community key actors together to talk about drug abuse prevention, as well as to make sure that there was opportunity to communicate with the police force, local law enforcement. So it's done annually. It's normally done in August. I think it's been done here various times during the year, but that's the idea, where the community will, and the police, our law enforcement, will come together and discuss and have an opportunity just to communicate with each other.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Chief?
So we also have had a partnership with Amazing Studios for an 8-part award-winning series entitled The Other Side. The objective of the series is to bridge communication between generations and highlight the importance of conversation in a complicated world. And we have these on our website, and we share these also on our social media pages to share those engagements on video, because there's important conversations in there. And we're very proud of that program and our partnership with Amazing Studios. We also, back in 2017, just as a reminder, myself and several other police chiefs from agencies in the county had some representatives of residents within our communities to create a video to demonstrate our commitment to build trust between police and residents. So this was long before what's going on right now. The minute-long public service announcement stressed the importance of trust, transparency, and community following the unrest that erupted after police shootings in places such as Ferguson and Charlotte. And it paired the police chiefs with a diverse group of civilians, male and female, black and white, Asian and Hispanic, Muslim and Christian, who live in the towns of Apex, Cary, Fuquay-Varina, Garner, Holly Springs, and Morrisville. From our recruitment, just to give you a snapshot here, we strive to recruit the most diverse and qualified workforce available in the marketplace. These are some of the recruitment efforts we've been doing, but of course we always need assistance and the community's help, quite frankly. So we've established a diverse recruitment team of 2015 to recruit at area community colleges, basic law enforcement training programs, military bases, recruitment events, and community events locally and across the state. We mentor youth at area schools and school events, and that's from elementary all the way up through high school. We, of course, recruit through our Police Explorers post, and if you remember, we hired one of our Police Explorers last year, a young lady that's doing exceptionally well right now. We participate in career day events at schools, colleges, BLET programs, and business events to include previous Chamber of Commerce events. We've had recruitment blocks of instruction in our Citizens Police Academy, speaker engagements at college, chamber events, and civic clubs. We have a new recruitment brochure, and actually we're going to update it again to reflect our new police facility, a display, and we have a recruitment video, and that was a very popular methodology to recruit individuals. When I met with various individuals, they said, we saw your video, and were impressed with it, and that's what brought our attention to the town of Fuquay-Varina. Of course, we have job postings as coordinated with our Human Resources Department through entities like the Justice Academy, the League of Municipalities, and various other police organizations, and discoverpolicing.org. We have job posting information on our Facebook, Nextdoor, fepolice.org website, and of course the town's website. We recruit through one-on-one interactions with officers with community during work activities, calls, and community events. Interactions by our employees at training sessions, business meetings, and professional events. Our school resource officer recruits at the high school, discusses job opportunities with our students, and I asked Captain Adams today to put together a list of how many graduates of Fuquay-Varina High School we had, and he gave me a number of 12, so that's not just police officers, but also our dispatchers. So I'm going to probably share something with that maybe on our social media page here in the next few days when I have that opportunity. But so that shows you that we are recruiting locally and it's working. Articles, of course, within newspapers and local magazines. We've been included in the News and Observer, has come to our Coffee with a Cop events. Suburban Living, Cary Living, and Main and Broad have covered whether it was an employee focus, training and recruitment, or any of our events. Our department has been featured in all of those. We've had representation at a variety of local events. We've had a representation at the North Carolina State Fair during Safety City events for the past 5 years, where we've had our car there and our officers there, and they've been engaging in traffic safety events where we've had contact with people from all over the state of North Carolina, to include outside of our state. So that was something representative and sharing that we're Fuquay-Varina and get our name recognition out there. We've had outreach opportunities during course Coffee with a Cop, our barbershop rap sessions, National Night Out, and numerous other events hosted. Participation in the North Carolina Justice Academy's basic law enforcement training video on the topic of dealing with individuals with hearing impairment. And this video is shown to all BLET programs in North Carolina and has also been used at in-service training. So we're representing our community in law enforcement training throughout the state. I will tell you that I also teach in BLET programs. And I know Commissioner Smith does as well, and we actively recruit when we're teaching. So that also assists in obtaining qualified applicants. But we still need the help and support of our community to recruit diverse, talented, and qualified candidates to the police department workforce. So here's how you can help. We can direct individuals that might be a good fit to the town's job posting page on the town's website through Human Resources. Direct individuals that might be a good fit, of course, to the police department's career page on the town website. Share with individuals that might be a good fit to the North Carolina law enforcement certification requirements. That tells exactly the age and all the requirements with the state you have to have. North Carolina Criminal Justice Education Training Standards has some tough requirements, quite frankly, comparing to other states, but that's a good thing because you want quality law enforcement here to avoid some of the problems that are occurring nationally. And of course, if you have anyone that might be interested in law enforcement, they can visit with me, and I have a very talented team that will spend time with any candidate. Captain Adams does an exceptional job, and my recruitment team, of course, does an exceptional job talking about the job and the benefits to working for the town of Fuquay-Varina. Also, just to give you an idea of our policy statement, this is shared with all of our employees. The Fuquay-Varina Police Department is committed to achieving its mission. We develop partnerships and specific goals designed to enhance our police service to the community in a manner that's consistent with our vision and the principles of our core values. Our mission statement is to serve the people of Fuquay-Varina and to provide safety and improve quality of life in our community through excellence in policing. And this is achieved through embracing our core values: fairness, vigilance, professionalism, and dedication, FVPD. And fairness means we will always deliver impartial and just treatment and behavior without favoritism or discrimination. Vigilance, we will keep careful watch for possible danger or difficulties of our oath of office and to respect the constitutional rights to all to liberty, equality, and justice. Professionalism, we're open, honest, and forthcoming in our words and actions. We treat everyone with dignity, respect, and fairness, regardless of individual background. Our appearance, demeanor, and bearing exemplify the highest standards in modern law enforcement. and dedication. We are professionals, dedicated and committed to the purpose of providing the best service to our citizens, business owners, and visitors of Fuquay-Varina. As the manager had mentioned, we're going to be sharing this information and in much more detail through a Fuquay-Varina transparency portal. And so the information provided this evening, as well as other information, we posted on the town's website from a link on the front page titled Transparency Portal. So we'll be sharing this and a variety of other information on the website, and we'll be continually updating that. So if we notice that there's a trend or information that our community is seeking, we'll be working within the transparency portal as ensuring that it does meet North Carolina general statutes. It's public record information that we can provide.
You
And just to-
one area that you may have mentioned and I just missed it, but the town adopted. Maybe Commissioner Smith was our police chief then, but we adopted the young people's academy, or the Explorer program. And we did have an officer, we've had an officer here in Fuquay-Varina that has come up through the Explorer program.
Yes.
One of the things about the Explorer program is that it is designed to help promote, and for young people to really understand the police department and how the police department works. And we have these programs, the town has them both in the police department and in the fire department. Mm-hmm. And they have both, I think, been extremely successful. One of the ways that I measure the success, though, is having a young lady that went through the program, and now she is one of our sworn police officers here in Fuquay-Varina, and you're to be commended on that, Chief.
Thank you. It's not just about me. It's about the men and women of the organization that work directly with our young people. And I have an exceptional staff as part of my post leadership. And we'll be looking at how we can even improve that program and perhaps bring something a little bit different to enhance what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
So we're working on that right now. My team's looking at that to see how we can bring the best possible program for our youth to help learn about policing, engage in opportunities, and perhaps have a wonderful career like I've had for over 29 years, because I'm here not because I have to be. I'm here because I want to be.
Well, we want you to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's for sure. But I go back to this town board adopted those procedures for those Explorer programs.
That's
to be
correct.
Part of those departments, and it's exciting to see them come forward and be helping our departments, both the police and the fire department. Does anyone else have any?
Yes, sir, Mayor. I'd like to say something. Or
Mayor Pro Tem.
not really much as much a question, Chief, for the police department, as much as a comment. I hope that the public reads and listens to our meeting tonight and this information that you have and what's put on the transparency portal for the public to know, because the stuff that's, I think people are quick to judge or make assumptions and not know the truth behind it, but these policies and everything you have in place protects the police department and protects the citizens at the same time, and you've done a great job putting these policies in place and handling these things. The comments that were made in regard to the program that's earlier, you already either meet or exceed the recommendations in that program. And I think often the public's quick to assume that something is not going on or not knowing it, and it's simply by listening tonight, they'll know the truth and know what the police department does. And just as you said, yourself, it's not just yourself, but it's the entire department. And I'm extremely proud of the Fuquay-Varina Police Department, and what you're doing is, what you and your department is doing in our community is incredible. And several of these events that you talked about earlier, I have attended those and seen the public. And as we both would always like for more public participation and more public to always join these events. But you're out there and you're trying to get to your department and officers to meet the community and the community to meet y'all and know what's going on. So thank you for what you're doing. And I don't know that you get told enough often thank you, or people quick to judge, but I want you to know that I appreciate you, and that there's a lot of the community that appreciates you and recognizes you for what your department does. And I'm very proud of y'all.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else wish to make a comment or ask a question? Please, now's the time.
Just thank you so much for being here tonight and giving us this information. I know I'd like to go to the police academy, to the Citizens Police Academy.
Well, you're welcome and encouraged to attend. We find it's rewarding for us as well, because we want to brag and share the work that we've been doing and answer those questions, because we want to get the information out there so that people can have the facts of what's occurring. And we're going to continue to self-critique. Again, this is an ever-evolving situation. New laws will be occurring. We have to adjust, train. We may have to change policies, but we are willing to do that self-critique. And as well, on the transparency portal, there'll be information so that if someone does have a concern or issue or wishes to file a complaint regarding the actions of an officer, there will be a methodology to do that. We currently have it already on our website. We have forms within our lobby. Anyone, we take a complaint, whether it's in person, anonymously, by phone, email, a variety of ways to accept that information so that we can investigate a complaint. So we're going to have that up there as well. And of course, I'm willing to meet, my supervisors are willing to meet with any of our community members to address any kind of concerns or issues, or just have a conversation, because that's what we're here for.
Any other comments? You know, I would just close it by saying what I know about our chief is that she's about excellence, and it's about her partners, whether it's in the DA's office, other law enforcement agencies, working with our town manager. You know, she is a person that has unbelievable integrity, and there's no question in my mind that Fuquay-Varina is better because of Laura Fonstock being our police chief, and we appreciate you very, very much. It's a tough time right now, and tough time for all good police officers everywhere, because they're having to carry the burden, you know, on their shoulders as well. And I appreciate your openness and your honesty in making our town a much better place.
Thank you.
Mayor, can I
Mr.
add
Bay?
just one thing?
Yes, sir. Come on, Commissioner
And then,
Wunsch.
or Commissioner Harris. I just was going to just briefly also say thank you, Chief, for your leadership and for all the work that the Fuquay-Varina Police Department does. And then add to that, I was talking to a citizen this week, and I said that what I'm really proud about in Fuquay-Varina is that we have, where other communities, you know, may be reactionary to the terrible and horrible things that have happened in our country recently, that our police department has put into place measures going back now for years that build strong community relations, that make our police department visible. And you laid all those out tonight, you know, of the many programs that have been done to build strong community relations. And we've been doing that for years. Not to say that, as we've discussed tonight, there's always room for improvement and to relook at policies and to continue to improve upon ourselves. But we've been doing that for years, and that was something I was very proud to share. That what we've been doing is not just we say, okay, we're going to do things different today, which we are relooking at things, but that we have been doing these things for years. And I feel like, in my opinion, we've been a model community for other communities to look at and to see what we've done. And I know I was saying, joking one day that I saw where one community had taken our coffee with a cop and had run with it, and that's what you hope. I think imitation is the greatest flattery, that they would go and they would use the measures that are being done in our community, as well as are looking to other communities and borrowing what they do, with the end result being effective community relations. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Wunsch. Commissioner, Harris, did you have a comment?
Yes, I had a comment.
Yeah.
Again, I'd like to thank you as well, Chief Funstock. And I know initially the concern was about the 8 Can't Wait program, and it's just great to see that the existing policies are aligned with the 8 Can't Wait. I think it's outstanding that those policies here in the town of Fuquay already exist. And I'd just like to add that I know over the last couple of months, it's been a difficult time for members of the law enforcement community because of the assumption that everybody in law enforcement is the same. And I know that those of us who have to respond to those kinds of questions, we know differently. But I also would like to add that I think that there's something inherent in ongoing efforts as far as community policing is concerned, is to overcome some of the mistrust that's in the African American community and communities of color as it relates to law enforcement. I see that as an ongoing challenge in law enforcement. It's good to know that some of the groundwork efforts that you have executed, as well as Commissioner Smith when he was here, as far as trying to reach out and to dispel some of the ideas about the relationship with law enforcement and the community. But I think it's an ongoing challenge, and I hope that you will continue to educate your officers and make the commitment to provide the leadership to make the police department seem more of an ally to the community, more so than an enemy, because I think that that's the perception that has to be overcome. And it's policies like this, it's your taking time out to explain those policies that help dispel those kinds of misperceptions. So again, thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, can I add one more
Yes,
comment?
sir. Commissioner Smith.
One thing that I was very picked up on early in the chief's presentation was, even though she presented a very detailed report tonight of how our department is already either meeting or exceeding the 8 Can't Wait, but she's not satisfied with that she's still got her staff researching to say, okay, we're doing a really good job here, but how can we be even better? And I just want to say publicly that that's one thing I've been impressed with Chief Fonstock since she got here. She's never satisfied where we are, either the community relations programs we have or our policies. She's constantly trying to upgrade those, and our department reflects that. We get better each year. We seem to get better. Every time we hire people, we seem to hire better people. Our department seems to do a better job, and that's something I want to say publicly thank you for, is that you're not satisfied where we are. You're reevaluating, you're retooling, looking for new programs. And tonight I'm sitting there looking at a few of the programs and, man, I hadn't heard of that one. You know, it's something else that we're putting out there, and I appreciate that and want to applaud you for that. And just to say, keep researching, keep training, and I know you are, but that would be what we need to keep doing, and I'm very pleased to hear. I just picked up that you wanted to continue reevaluating our policies, our training, and so forth. So great job on that, Chief.
Thank you.
You know, one thing that we can do as a group is participate, you know, in our community. And these are things that are throughout our community, and, you know, it could be the MLK walk. It could be the rap sessions. It could be many other things in the community, but we need to help our community continue to realize its full potential. And that's by the mayor, police chief, all of us commissioners, town manager. everybody participating, you know, in our community to help make it better. We've got a great community, and it's up to all of us to continue to do it, to make it better and better. And Chief, thank you again.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Adam, I was going to go back to you.
Yes, sir. One thing I just wanted to provide a little extra detail to. So Chief Feinstock mentioned at the end about the transparency portal, and that was a question was raised earlier in tonight's meeting by a citizen about how we will share this information out publicly. And so, yes, on the front page of our town website, we intend to add a button that the public can click on that will say Transparency Portal. And it really is meant to serve as a one-stop shop for some of the more frequently looked at or asked about public records and documents for the town. And the goal is so that people don't have to go hunting and finding on our website for information. Our website is full of content, full of good information, but sometimes you have to dive a layer or 2 layers or 3 layers to find that information. And so we're trying to extrapolate from our website as a whole some of those more sought after pieces of information to put on a one-stop shop transparency portal for our community. And so you might find on this transparency portal, when you click on this button, certainly the information we discussed tonight about policies, about recruitment, about community outreach related to our police department. You may also find the town's fiscal year 21 budget and 5-year adopted plan and audit report, so that you don't have to go click on government departments, finance, budget, you know,
all the way down,
4 layers down to find the information. You might also find on the transparency portal our land development ordinance, our community transportation plan, our land use plan, some of our planning documents that are more frequently sought after and looked for without having to go to 5 layers on the planning department's webpage to get to the information. Perhaps some economic development information. And so we're not going to try to flood too much information on there to where it becomes difficult to navigate, but we want to hit that balance of just enough
the most
of
the
most sought after documents and information. And so that's what we will do. We've already been working, Chief Feinstock and I have already been working closely with Susan Weiss, our communications director, to begin developing this landing page for the transparency portal. And it is our hope that by the end of this week, if not sooner, that transparency portal will be live with this information for our community. So hopefully that gets to the questions that you as a board were asking about how we were going to share this information out front, forward, outward, and as well as what the community is looking for. Then once it's on our website, we'll probably begin sharing with the public via some of our social media outlets that, hey, this is here now and it's live, and so you can go to it on our website and find this information, so that we're trying to hit them in 2 ways to make it evident and blatantly apparent that we are a transparent community and we do want our public to know what we're doing.
Do you need our town board to adopt anything?
No, sir.
We're good to go?
We're already good. Yes, sir.
All right.
And that's all I have under the manager's report this evening, Mr. Mayor, so I think we're on the town board member comments.
All right, we're there. Commissioner Smith, you have any words of wisdom for us?
Yes, sir. Real quick, I would just want to say thank you to the board as individuals and as a group for just reaching out to my wife's family at the death of her father, and also take an opportunity to publicly say thank you to the police department as well. They reached out in several ways and assisted the Sheriff's Department, Raleigh PD, in making sure that a rather large funeral procession was able to get out of town pretty quickly. And I just appreciate it. Being a former member there, it was just made me proud to see Chief Feinstock had officers there to assist. It was nice for the family to see, and I appreciate it so much. So that's all I have tonight.
Thank you. Commissioner Harris.
No more comments, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Wunsch.
No comments, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Gardner.
Just another thank you, both to our town manager and to our police chief for being here tonight and planning this for us. It was very good information and timely. Thank you.
Just a few.
Mr. Mayor, do you want to call on Mayor Pro Tem? I think you
Yeah.
Missed him.
I just figured you,
Let's get him. I jumped him.
I figured you were just gonna say the best for last.
I did. I jumped him. I'm sorry. Mayor Pro Tem.
One comment on to make tonight. Manager, we spoke one time, a lot of talk tonight also was about Lincoln Heights community, and we discussed one time about, a couple different meetings, about some property over there that needed to be cleaned up, and some of the right-of-way, and some houses that were gonna be notified for, that have been abandoned, and just different general, that conversation we had. Well, at a future meeting, do you have an update, or maybe a future meeting, you can provide us some kind of update on what's been done and that area, because I think that goes a long ways too for not just policing, but I mean in general talking about the park and utilization, that type of stuff too, and maybe things would be used even more if some of those things were done. And that's a fair thing to do for the community that can be done soon and at least be updated on that.
Sure, we have been working on it. There's more work to be done. We've been documenting that, and I can certainly come back with the report for the board on that as well.
Okay, thank you. Now, the best has spoken. That was last.
All right.
That was just for you, John.
No, that's okay. Thank you.
Since you forgot me.
Well, I didn't forget you. I had this little piece of paper was over top of your name here.
You forgot
here,
me.
and I jumped to Commissioner
Got me.
Smith. But just, the Wake County Mayors Association meeting was last night. It's the first time we've gotten together as a group since the COVID event has been moving forward, and everybody was. We spent a lot of time about police, talking about policing. We spent a lot of time talking about the COVID. It's like Adam had said earlier. This event's not over with yet, and it continues to be moving up, and especially in Wake County. So it will be interesting to see how it continues to unfold. I would encourage everybody to be safe, to be as careful as they can be. Stay home, do the things that they know to do, protect their families. We've got tomorrow's Campo. Or
Yeah, next day, Thursday.
Thursday is Campo, 17th.
That's tomorrow.
Yeah, that's tomorrow. Well,
17th.
Adam and I are moving pretty quick. We got meetings. He's got meetings all the time, so do I. And Campo will be a virtual meeting tomorrow that I'll be attending. But we are seeing more and more evidence of how COVID is affecting funding. Part of that Adam talked about earlier is through and it's not just the Wake County piece of the puzzle, it's the North Carolina, it's all over. The traveling portion, whether it's hotel, motel, and restaurants, that funding is just not going to be there, and it's probably going to be a while.
That's right.
Before it comes back. The other piece is the gasoline tax. People are not traveling nearly like they were traveling. So that revenue is down considerably. And many of the programs that Campo or we've been working with about, streets and roads and things like that will certainly be delayed and continue to slide them back a quarter, if not another quarter, until the revenue goes back up on the gasoline taxes. And I think we'll see this more and more, Adam, as we really get into our sales tax numbers and other areas for our, for our community. And so we need to really be aware of and try to be as, and I hate to use the word as conservative, but we do need to be conservative until we can get a good view of the future. Right now, we're moving into kind of an unknown gap of time, and Adam and I have spent time talking about this, and it's an interesting time, in government. It's not any different than any other type of business, but we're going into an unknown period of time, and we got to do a good job. We just got to be patient and make sure that our direction is really where we ultimately, want to get to. Okay, we don't have a closed session
No,
tonight.
sir, not recommended this evening.
Okay, I will entertain a motion that we adjourn.
Mayor, so moved.
Second.
Got a motion, a bunch of seconds. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank y'all so much. Ending, Scott, thank them very much, and appreciate Adam. Good meeting.
Thank you, sir.
And Chief Fonstock, good meeting. Thank you for being here with us.
Yes.
Absolutely, thank you.